What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride Detroit YouTube channel. I'm Meko, joined by my guy Morgan here. Morgan, we're here on a Victory Monday, a little bit earlier, a little bit different than what we normally do, but like there's no point in waiting, right? We got to talk about last night's game, and I wanted to get some help in doing this because I feel like if it's just being by myself, I'm gonna go all over the place. So first, and starting with you, Morgan, how are you feeling on Victory Monday, and also let us know what it was like just being at Ford Field last night.
Yeah, man, it was fun, Miko. I'm sure it was I'm sure it sounded loud on the TV. That was the been to a lot of games at Ford Field through the years, and that was by far the most electric atmosphere I've been a part of. It was really cold outside, and it was so crowded in the stadium. Like no one could we couldn't really find a table to sit anywhere, despite being in the gates as soon as they opened. And the energy was crazy just from the jump, Miko. Like there was people in
Yeah,
their seats like at 7 o'clock. I feel like hour plus before kickoff. There's probably like 50,000 people in their seats already. So like the energy was crazy during warm-ups. They started, the Jared Goff chants broke out when he was coming out and warming up, and like I was like, oh man, like this crowd's feeling themselves, like they're on a
yeah.
mission. There was hardly any Rams fans. I think I saw like, I don't know, maybe two hands worth, maybe 10. I'm
We don't
serious.
listen. I was gonna say they barely show up to their own game, so I would expect them to show up to a road game.
Facts. Most Rams fans are still in St. Louis, sadly, right?
For real, hurt
Mm.
too.
Yeah.
We'll get to them later, though. This is not
Yep.
their part of the video. We will get to Rams fans. There is a section dedicated just to you in this video.
There is.
But yeah, man. I mean, watching that game, being at home. I was saying it to you earlier before we started recording. It felt like such an efficient game, but at the same time, it also felt like it went by so quickly. Like 1 second, I feel like I'm watching that first half, and the Lions and the Rams are kind of trading these long extending drives, both going down, getting points. And then it's like I blinked, it feels like, and we're in the fourth quarter, and it's like nail biting time, and we're trying to figure out which team is going to not get a stop first. What was it like for you, like during that period? Like again, sitting through that fourth quarter and just being like, yo, what, trying to determine what's going to happen in the game right there.
Man, I feel like there was two halves of the game for me, and like halftime went by really quick. The Detroit Youth Choir put on a really good show.
Shout outs to
And
them.
they did awesome, man. It was beautiful. It was a really cool show. And we got up to like eight. It was like all the way up until 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Felt like a blip, and then
Mm-hmm.
8 minutes to the end of the game felt like it was like an hour and a half. I swear it took. I was like, oh my god, and we were all stressing out. But then, yeah, we kind of realized with through just talking with people in my section, I was like that when St. Brown got that first down, we are like, that's ball game, and then that's when everyone just started freaking out. You saw a lot of guys and just people in general crying, like old men crying. It was
Yeah.
cool. It was really cool to see.
Dude, it was such a, like I said, being at home watching it on TV, it was such a surreal feeling. I had to like kind of keep my emotions in check the best I could. We had already put our kids to bed, so like, trying not to wake them up or anything like that. But just yeah, seeing it, trying to like just being able to feel the atmosphere through the TV, like it felt like an electric, moment, an electric environment to just be a part of. So with that said, Morgan, we know how it ended, right? Lions get the win, 24-23. Really competitive game all the way through. I think both teams played the way that we kind of broke them down in the way we kind of expected them to. The players that we thought would go off went off. The players that we thought needed to step up stepped up really big. But when you look back on this game, when you start to reflect on last night, what's your biggest takeaway from that game?
Well, it was a tale of two halves, right? Like we talked about it before we got on. The offense really took control early. It was really efficient. They were
Mm-hmm.
moving the line of scrimmage. People were getting separation. St. Brown, JMO got involved early. The Sun God went off, obviously. J. Ray went off, had a really good game. And then the offense kind of sputtered at times in the second half, and the defense had to bend but not break. Like, yes, Nakua had a big box score. There were some missed tackles that led to some long runs after catch, right, that we were talking
Yeah.
about. So, but other than that, man, the defense won you the game in the second half. I know people are going to be like, oh my gosh, this, that, and the other, but that was just a really good. I think there was a miscommunication on the one long throw. Was that to Demarcus Robinson?
Yeah.
Or is it? No, it's to Nakua. Sorry,
No,
the
it's
first
Nakua for
one.
the touchdown. Yeah.
Yep.
So he actually he shook Cam pretty well. Like it's a
Yeah.
really good like release off the line, but it is also some communication because I think Cam was expecting to have safety help and CJ was not there to cover like that portion of the field to be able to make that a little bit more of a difficult throw.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because I was reading, my boy was texting my friend from home. I was like, "Hey, what did you see here?" It was a double move, and it looked like so. Yeah, like to your point, Miko, Sutton got cooked, and then he didn't have any help. So that was bad. But then the other one, like we were talking about, Miko, and you made a great point with this, is uh, the Vildor touchdown to Tutu Atwell. It
Yeah.
like Vildor was really close to making a damn near a PBU or a pick on that play. And
Yeah.
you said it perfectly. It was a more of a perfect throw than it was a bad play by Vildor, right?
Yeah, in my opinion, like if you again go back and look at it, and that's going to be one of the plays that we break down later this week when we kind of probably go through some of the film. But like it's a pinpoint accurate throw, and as a DB, that's the best you can do is at least get hands. You know, he's selling out to try and get, you know, to make this a more difficult pass. And credit to Matthew Stafford on that one. That's a tip. That's a tip of the hat that you have to give to him on that one to be able to fit that ball in and for them to be able to turn that into a touchdown. But you know, those types of plays are going to happen. Like you're saying, Morgan, it may look bad on the defense and it may look like the defense is failing in that moment. And maybe there's some complaints to have about them getting in the red zone in the first place. But that specific play, there's no one to really blame other than just giving credit to the offense for executing it.
Yeah, absolutely, Miko. And then we talked about it. They bowed up in the red zone. Stafford was 3 for 8 in the red zone with no touchdowns. And that's the money. Those are the money downs, man, because at the end of the day, that offense was going to, barring just having a bad day, they're going to move the ball just about against anybody. Because
Yeah.
if you, like, since week 11, all those metrics like EPA per play, DVOA, they were like a top 5 offense in every metric, passing, running, all that, right? Like they were beating people up.
Yeah.
So the fact that, again, minus a few little runs here and there, if I'm not mistaken, my brain is still scrambled. My voice is shot. But I thought the Lions played the run really, really well. And Stafford was making some throws, man. Like the no looker I saw today, he
The no
dropped
looker
an
was
arm.
nasty. The no looker was nasty.
Then he kept dropping his arm angle and like hitting people over the middle, like layering ball. Like, so he was in his bag, like to his credit. That, yeah, I don't think it was a bad defensive performance. I think it was more so, like you said, Miko, just like almost like we use basketball analogies a lot here on Pride of Detroit and YouTube, and like sometimes it's just dudes hitting shots, right? Like just better offense.
It's one of those things where it's like, listen, if you're gonna drop 40, right, you're gonna drop 40 the hard way. It's not gonna be a bunch of layups. It's not gonna be a bunch of like trips to the free throw line. Like you're gonna get 40 the hard way. And I think that is kind of what the Lions did, because did they get 23 points? They absolutely did. But it's a lot of field goals. It's a lot of failed attempts in the red zone. It's what you're saying, right? And we kind of alluded to in previewing this. Puka Nacua, again, huge hat tip to him because, like you said, a lot of those plays, yes, there were some missed tackles and things of that nature, but a lot of those he forced some really
tough catches.
Good tough catches, tough running in space. So again, hat tip to him. Matthew Stafford in his bag, hat tip to him. But then you look at it again, like we said this when we talked about the Vikings, we said this when we talked about the Cowboys. Who else hurt you? No one. They limited, and that's a credit to this defense. It may not sound efficient, it may not sound sexy, but Aaron Glenn in this defense has found a formula where they're like, listen, we're going to shut down your run game. All this talk that we heard, and we can kind of transition over to you Rams fans. All this talk we heard about Kyron Williams, and again, really good player, all pro as a second year player in the league.
Amazing.
Kudos to him. But all that talk about how he was going to continue this hot streak that he was on because he had been doing this against everybody else. And we tried to tell you, this Lions defense had shut down everyone.
Yep.
Everyone running the ball. There wasn't a single running back that put up over 100 yards by themselves against this Lions run defense. So going into this game, again, the Lions had a formula. They had a plan on how they were going to go about attacking this Rams offense. They knew what they were going to allow them to do and what they weren't going to allow them to do. So Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford, go off. Cooper Kupp, you're not getting involved. 5 catches, 27 yards.
Brian Branch.
right? Brian, thank you. Brian Branch had a game. We said that he would need to have one, and he did. Whether he was
Yep.
covering Puka, whether he was covering Cooper Kupp, Brian Branch had a game. And so it is. It kind of like it for me, Morgan. I look back at all this talk, and again, credit to you guys as Rams fans. We appreciate you guys checking out our content, but y'all got reckless in the comment section.
Yeah.
Y'all got hella reckless in that comment section, and at the end of the day, games are not win or loss in comment sections. They're won on the field. And everything we tried to tell you guys, being respectful to your team and to your players, Morgan, it played out.
Yeah, and when we try to say it like through the content, right? Like it's the way, and I think Meko made this point a couple weeks ago. Even the Lions defense, it is the way it is because it's built the way it is right now. They made a bunch of moves in the offseason, and Emmanuel Mosley played 2 snaps for the Lions before tearing his other ACL, unfortunately. And Jerry Jacobs regressed in season, unfortunately, and it's Cam Sutton who's likely going to be cornerback 2 for the Lions next year in ideal scenario, and he's a good vet, but is he going to be your shutdown corner who's going to go against the really good like players in this league, like the Puka Nakuas and the CeeDee Lambs and so on and so forth? No, but at the same time, the Lions have made it a point, like, yeah, like Meko said, you might have a receiver get $150, some run after catch, but you're not going to run the ball just because you're not. That's just the way they're built up front. And that's just the way it's going to be. And if you can beat them that way, so be it. But then we also try to tell you guys, the offense is like that, man. When the Lions offense is rolling, you kind of saw those first couple of drives where the middle of your defense that you guys kept talking about with Aaron Donald and Kobe Turner, right? Is it Kobe Turner? Yeah. Like no sacks,
0
man.
sacks.
And y'all were getting bludgeoned inside, man. Like the first touchdown, Jonah Jackson moved Aaron Donald quite a bit.
Solo. No double teamed. Solo.
And that's the Lions probably, not worst, but the third of 3 best interior offensive linemen this year.
I was going to say, Jonah's been having a down year. And I think if there's someone who else that, like, again, we're going to get to this later in the show, but if there's someone who deserves some credit for having a good game, Jonah,
for sure. It was a good bounce back game for him because he's
great bounce back game for him.
Yes,
but
sir.
Another thing that I want to address really quick, Morgan, because again, I'm feeling petty. I'm feeling like just trying to react and respond to some things that I didn't get to respond to last night. Anybody that's blaming the refs for this game, this is not the fan base to do it with. I'm sorry,
no, sir.
I get it.
No,
we know it better than anyone how missed calls can affect games. But if you want to sit here and play this what if game about what if Puka Nacua had gotten that defensive PI call, we can sit here and do the exact same thing about what if the Lions had got that false start penalty not called on them.
Yep. Or the Jahmyr Gibbs late hit because that man was like 5 yards out of bounds and got chopped down. I was blown away because it wasn't a hard hit, but it's way late, man. It doesn't matter. So like that crew was kind of, there's a couple instances too in this, that crew wasn't good again. Surprise, surprise.
Right.
They were like, they stopped the play one time to tell us that the down was right and the clock was right. Like the Rams got like an extra 30-second timeout.
Oh yeah.
Dude, what was
another time when they basically did that just to be like, oh no, Puka Nacua did get checked out by the medical staff. And it's like,
oh, dude, yeah, they had extra timeouts. Like you guys had to burn timeouts because the crowd was crazy. And it made a big play. Like, that's what ended up killing the Rams at the end. You couldn't stop the clock anymore, and the Lions won. But, yeah, you guys can save the officiating talk, man. The DPI stuff, they called some. Right? You guys got a few of those calls.
And
play
that are questionable. Like, I'll sit here and be like, some of those, I think the first one that they got on Brian Branch, I was like, I don't know about that one.
No, yeah. And those subjective calls, man, you watch football long enough, you just know it's a part of the game. I know it sucks, but again, the procedural stuff, like where whoever jumped in the neutral zone and Taylor Decker touched him, or Jonah Jackson, like that's officiating 101.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's black and white. That's one of those things where like
no
that
interpretation
happen.
Bingo, yes sir.
And listen, the officiating stuff, I don't want to hear.
Miss me with it.
Miss me with it, because at the end of the day, what really should matter to you guys as Rams fans is that your team had 3 trips to the red zone and didn't get a touchdown.
Not a one.
That's
Not a
what
one.
should bother you.
That's why you lost.
Plain out, like flat out. If you get
So
one touchdown, like
you win
that's
the
all you
game.
needed was one.
No, you win the game, and you got none. And CJGJ had a good rep there at the end. Again, I thought it was like, besides some of the big plays and the broken tackles, and I know people are gonna be like, that's a big part of defense. I understand that, but it's our job to look at the whole context of the game, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good performance, man. The offense fell off in the second half, and the defense picked up the slack, got stops when they need to. Shout out to Michael Badgley too. I'm not going to complain, and Jack Fox. I won't complain about kicking or punting the rest of the playoffs, and maybe up until halfway into next year. Y'all hold me to it.
I was gonna say both those guys came up clutch. Jack Fox doing what Jack Fox has been doing since he's been in Detroit, pinning teams,
Yes.
deep in their own territory. And again, that Badgley kick is the game, right? We didn't know it when he kicked it, but at like looking at how it played out, looking at the final score, that was the game. And someone pointed this out on Twitter when I was like kind of highlighting that. Also, huge hat tip to a guy who we all were wondering if he was going to play, in Sam Laporta getting that 5 yards to even set up that field goal attempt. Like, so many things had to transpire for the Lions to get there. And as much as, some may try to take away from that by blaming officiating or, trying to say that a player on our team is dirty because he doesn't know how to tackle well. That's the only way I can put it. I'm not getting into it any more than that, Morgan. Just know, Rams fans, he's not a dirty player. He's a terrible tackler.
He's a
what it is.
Big physical athlete. That's all we'll say. Kirby Joseph is a big physical athlete. He's not a good tackler. And this is also a result of how the league is forcing people to tackle. Like Alex Anzalone said it after the game, Lions linebacker with the long hair, if you're not familiar, people. And he was like, it's unfortunately a product of how the NFL wants us to tackle and how they officiate the games. So yeah, even if Kirby's head is up, he could still, like, that knee can. He's a big, strong athlete, man. He's not small. He's like 6'2", 210, and he can freaking run. Okay, so when he comes down and hits like that, it's a force, Meko. You're a DB for a long time, like that.
I was gonna say, like, listen, there are some things that can be. There are some legitimate conversations that can be had about that play. Whether or not it's dirty, it should not be one of them, because that is not the context in which that play should be looked at. But Morgan, with that said, there's also one more fan base that I kind of wanted to get your opinion on, because the Lions won today and another particular team lost, the Lions get another home game next week. What do we have to say to those in Dallas?
Just thank y'all, man. I thank you. I really do. I appreciate you guys. It all worked out. Like, it's the biggest Rasheed Wallace ball don't lie moment for in a while, because y'all got thumped you didn't even just get beat by the Packers. Like, they had that game on in Ford Field, like at the bars, and then the Giants, scoreboards at either end of the stadium. So we were watching it, and honestly, by the middle of the fourth quarter, I was just like, this is boring. And I was on my phone, really, because that game was over. Y'all were just getting beat that bad. So shout out Cowboy, shout out to Dallas, shout out to Cowboys fans. Ball don't lie. And I got time for them on Twitter later once I get settled a little more. So,
and I just want to thank you guys for being consistent.
Always.
In a league where you just never know what's going to happen with one team, who's going to be hot, who's going to be not. It doesn't matter how good the Cowboys seem. We know. We all know. And we all just sit back and wait. So thank you guys for being consistent for all these years. I don't know who has cursed you guys, because you guys inducted Jimmy Johnson into the Ring of Honor. I thought that would have maybe fixed some of your juju. Apparently not. Somebody out there has a voodoo doll of Jerry Jones that he's not, and they're not letting it go. So I don't know. Maybe Jerry Jones needs to go right some wrongs. Maybe he's got some skeletons in the closet that need to get aired out. But for me, I appreciate all the consistency for all these years, because of that, the Lions get another home playoff game, and I feel so good going into that game, Morgan. Like, I genuinely do not care who it is between Tampa or Philly. But I'm going to ask you anyway, do you have a preference on who you would like to see come in here next week?
I want to say maybe Philly, man, if they can eke this one out, just because they're limping, right? Like, I want to see what's like. Is AJ Brown playing today? I don't think so.
No, he's not.
So like that helps immensely, right? Like I know Devontae Smith's a really good player too for Philadelphia, and I
Mm-hmm.
know Philly's still, but like they're just in a free fall, man. Like at this point, I feel good about either. I just, man, this is just such a cool place to be in. Like this week, right? Like it's almost like the vibes are so high, and it's a potentially a really good matchup either way. And then you just look to the future, and like Jeremy had this tweet, which I really loved, and it was like they may take like our offensive coordinator, our defensive coordinator, Mike
Yep.
Disner, etc. But we still, excuse me, we're gonna have Brad and Dan, man, and like those are the foundations. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, that's the head of the snake, and this could set up like we could end up being the Baltimore Ravens of the NFC, and I would love that for like a good 20 years and just year in and year out. Like you're okay, well, we got to worry about the Lions, obviously, and then you have like that's what I want to be, and you look at it, and that's what they're set up for. And this week's going to be exciting, and then you go into the off season, and who knows, like if they win this game, they're potentially going to San Francisco or God Almighty
Or yep, say it.
hosting the Packers for the NFC Championship. There's just, man, oh my God.
To look at where we were, or to think of where we were at the beginning of the season, back in training camp, and just again feeling hopeful. I think a lot of Lions fans were hopeful, predicting 11,
Sure.
12, 13 wins, things of that nature, predicting that we would win a division. It's one thing to predict it. It's another thing to see it come to life. And it's better, Morgan, than I think any of us ever could have thought it would be, and it's been an amazing ride, and it's one that I'm glad that we get to continue. And so, like you said, whether it's Philly, who's kind of limping right now, or Tampa, who we've seen earlier in the year, and Tampa was tough. They shut down our run game for the most part, but we still found ways of winning that game. So I feel confident either way. I probably would lean a little more towards Tampa just because I don't want the risk of Philly figuring it out.
Right. True. That's not a bad point either.
That's the last thing I would like to see that team do is start to get it together. But I'm feeling really good about the Lions right now. So with that said, let's move to the last part of this video. Let's give out some game balls, because I know, look, Dan Campbell gave out some. I know, the media team gave out some to a couple guys. In your opinion, who would you give a game ball to after looking at yesterday's game?
How many do I have, and does it have to be a player?
I'll give you two, and no, they don't have to be a player.
I'll go, dude. I'm gonna go Dan Campbell, who I think you have to talk about him being coach of the year.
For sure.
Like it has to be. I know other guys have probably done like a lot with less, perhaps in terms of talent, but man, like just look at the turnaround from 2021 to now to 9-8 to 12-5, should have been 13-4, hosting a second playoff game. It's a crazy run. And then the second one, I'll probably give to Goff, man. I want to give him his flowers just because I know it's kind of chalky, but he made some big throws, and I know this is probably the longest week of his life, I'm assuming. Had to have been.
Oh, so for sure.
I want to give him his credit. Like there's probably some defenders I could give it to. Like I thought Hutch had a strong game. Jameer had a good game. Saint had a monster game. I want to continue to give Saint his flowers, like just because he's so good every freaking week. I want to make sure we appreciate him all the time. But what about you?
Honestly, that's honestly where I was going to go. Like I think we could find some creative, like you're saying. I could give one to Hutch because I think he did. He, getting 2 sacks in the game, having, quality pressure that was really affecting things. Yeah, drawing a holding call. Brian Branch, I think, played great. We talked about him earlier. We kind of singled him out earlier in the week and talking about how he was going to be really much needed for the Lions to have a chance of containing that passing attack. I think he played really well defensively. The entire offensive line, again, yes, you gave up, I think, 2.5, 3 sacks on the day. Some of those were just like Jared Goff being goofy, though. Like,
yep.
And none of them were to their defensive line, though, right? Like it was a lot of like the linebackers getting through, and maybe some bad pass setting reps from the running backs in those situations. Yep. So
one of them for sure, I remember.
So yeah, like I think the offensive line deserves a lot of credit, but I think ultimately, what you start realizing is like this entire team, like this was the definition of a team win But if I only had 2 game balls, they would absolutely go to Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, because Jared, from the way he played on the field, and then Dan never went just like riverboat Dan at any point in this game. He stayed even keeled. He stayed in the moment. He never got too greedy, right? When he went for it on 4th down, it felt like he should go for it on 4th down. And that's
trusted Badgley, and it paid off, to your point. Yep.
Yeah, like everything just felt like, again, even when the game was close, it never felt like it was out of their control. And I think a lot of that credit goes to Dan and his ability to manage this team well. And then, like you said, Jared not be like getting too in his own head in a week that there was a lot on the line. I told you before we started recording, there was a point somewhere in that 3rd quarter where like the offense wasn't really doing much, where it's like, man, if they lose this game because the offense stopped putting up points, I don't know how this fan base is going to respond to him. And for the fact that he, like, again, was able to march them down, get that field goal, as well as make that like money throw to Saint to be able to basically ice the game away, that's huge. And he deserves so much credit, and he deserves every bit of the love that he's getting, and should continue to get going forward.
Yeah, I 100% agree, Meko. Just everything. Like he made plays when it counted. Never got the moment. Never got too big for him. Made some tight. Like, I can't wait to look at some of the top plays this week. Once we get the film, just because there were some money throws over the middle, man. So we'll get into those. But yeah, I'm right there with you. It's still soaking it in.
Like I said, I'm right there with you. So listen, guys, we're gonna leave you guys here with this video. Morgan and I will be back either tomorrow or sometime this week to go over top plays as soon as the film is available to us. But celebrate this win, enjoy it, block out any type of nonsense that is not related to that win, because that's all that matters right now. The Lions have a playoff win. They get to host another playoff game. And guess what? Our Super Bowl hopes are still alive.
Crazy.
It's crazy to think about, guys, but enjoy that and continue to just, I don't know, be the awesome fans that you guys are. So let us know in the comment section below, how are you feeling on this Victory Monday? What are some of the things that stood out most to you from the game? If you got some trash talk for Cowboys and Rams fans, we're here for it. Yes. Cowboys and Rams fans, if you want to jump in the comment section to defend yourselves, good luck. Today ain't the day. But yo, super happy, super excited. Lions are again just finding new and amazing ways of blowing our mind. If you're looking for any more additional content about this team, be sure to head over to pridedetroit.com. There's new articles being uploaded all day today, I'm sure. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you can be notified anytime we upload any more articles. I'm pretty sure the main POD crew is going to be going live later tonight, so definitely check that out. And like I said, Morgan and I will be back later this week, top plays, and then once we find out who we're playing, jumping back into another film study. So with all that said, I'm Meko, he's Morgan. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.